Hi, welcome. Today I'm going to show you how I make this delicious sourdough sandwich bread recipe. This bread is so easy to make. It only requires about 20 minutes of hands-on time, and it is so delicious. You're going to love it. Let's get started.
Like most sourdough recipes, you're going to start this recipe the night before you plan to bake by adding all-purpose flour, butter, salt, active sourdough starter, and warm water to a mixing bowl. The ratios will depend on the temperature of your room, and so you can find those recipes and ratios in the description below. The first step is to add your softened butter, all-purpose flour, salt, and sugar to a mixing bowl. I prefer to use a scale, but you can use measurements as well. Next, you'll want to mix those dry ingredients until you get a nice soft crumble and all of the ingredients are combined. And while that is mixing, you can start to mix together your wet ingredients. You'll want to start with your sourdough starter, depending on your ratio, which will be different depending on the temperature outside and your room temperature. You'll mix that with warm water, just warm enough that you can touch the water, not boiling hot water. And you'll want to mix that together until it starts to look like milk. Nice milky consistency. Next, you will slowly add your sourdough starter and water to your flour mixture. And let that just mix up slightly with the mixing attachment. Now you'll want to remove the mixing attachment and replace it with your dough hook attachment. It can help to wet your hands before removing the dough from the mixing attachment. You'll then want to mix on a medium-low speed for about 6 to 8 minutes. The dough will feel soft and supple and not stick to your hands. If it does, then you will add a dusting of flour. I like to pull the dough out of the bowl just to get a feel for how sticky it is and kind of just shape it slightly into a round ball to kind of prevent it from just all being stuck to the sides of the bowl. And then place it back in the bowl, cover it with plastic wrap and a towel, and set it overnight until doubled in size. It's about 10 to 12 hours. It is now the next morning and the dough has risen nicely, so you'll want to remove the dough onto a lightly floured surface. And then spray or coat a 9 by 5 inch pan with butter or oil. I'm just using the avocado oil spray. I like to lightly flour my hands to prevent the dough from sticking. And you can just scrape the dough out with your fingers here, or use a dough scraper, which I always forget to grab. Once you have all the dough out, you'll want to gently flatten the surface to release any large air bubbles. Next, you'll want to roll the dough into a log, tucking the ends underneath. I I ended up rolling mine a little longer than necessary, so I'm just going to do kind of a cupping and pulling to bring that more into a log shape that will fit into my pan. Once your dough is smooth and shaped, you'll want to place it in your pan, smooth side up, and then cover the dough with a lightly oiled or buttered piece of plastic wrap. And you'll just let it rise at room temperature until it has risen about 1 inch above the rim of the pan. It takes about 1.5 to 2 hours depending on the temperature of the room and the amount of sourdough starter you used. You can check the height by looking at the dome center portion of the dough. I also like to spray my plastic wrap to prevent it from sticking when the dough rises. Today was a little cold and rainy, so I'm going to be proofing my bread in my oven using the bread proof setting. If you don't have this, you can place it by a warm fire or warmer area of your home. I'm checking my bread a little late and it has risen well above the rim of the pan. So I'm going to preheat my oven. You can preheat the oven to 500 degrees to promote a nice rise. And then once you place your bread in the oven, you will lower the temperature back down to 375 to bake it for about 45 to 50 minutes or until golden brown. Once your bread is ready, you'll want to allow it to cool in the pan for at least 10 minutes and then transfer to a rack to cool completely. This bread looks and smells amazing. I hope that you all try this recipe and love it as much as we do. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.